Good morning, everyone. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome. Welcome to this video. How's your heart today? Is your heart kind? How's your mind? Is your mind calm and clear? The topic of today's video is when the divine intervenes in family squabbles. Let's talk about it. Excuse me. I'll be right back. If your friendships or your family doesn't have any squabbles, that's good. But that's not the norm. We all experience disagreements with our family. And some are worse than others. Maybe you're the type of person that you feel you've been the scapegoat all the time. That tends to make matters worse. Sometimes there seems like there's no end to the drama. You've heard people talk about being raised in dysfunctional families. That's a reality. And then the dysfunction continues for whatever reason. And hopefully, you're the type of person at some point that says, I don't want to be a part of dysfunction. You'd like to find a remedy, but there seems to be no remedy. So what do you do? What do you do when you finally say, I don't want to retaliate and get revenge anymore? You know, the tit-for-tat arguments. Making statements that hurt other people. Back and forth this goes. I mentioned in videos before that unless you're the type of person, if you feel you're being disrespected, unless you're the type of person that could take being disrespected all the time, not all people are able to tolerate it. So if you feel you're being disrespected all the time, you need to walk away. You need to walk away. But in that period of walking away, don't be thinking of ways to get revenge or retaliate. What's the purpose of walking away? To me, it's a cooling off period. When you cannot find a way to resolve the family squabble, there has to be a cooling off period. Because you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting them. And usually it's a great misunderstanding on your part and a great misunderstanding on their part. But the habit is to not address the issue honestly So the squabbles and the tit for tat continue. It's not good for both parties. Here's my personal experience. Here's my personal experience. Before I talk about that, let me ask you this question. And I'll bet a lot of you or all of you could relate to it. When you've had a squabble with your friends when you were a kid, and it got really heated, what did your mom say? When you've had a squabble with your friends and it got really heated, what did your mom say? Don't talk to them. She said, don't talk to them. She did not say retaliate and get revenge. She said, don't talk to them. That's good advice, especially because, listen to me, pay attention, kids that are friends and squabble and it gets really heated and that continues, when there's a cooling off period, out of nowhere, they're friends again, right? And if you think of it that way, when your family member and you can no longer endure each other, and there's a cooling off period, the divine will intervene if either of you, both of you, don't retaliate anymore. And it's as simple as one person not being able to understand the other person, and the other person not being able to understand the other person. Feelings get hurt. And in today's world, the human response is to lash out at each other. Am I right? Maybe you're having a tit for tat with this family member, and one day a light goes on and says, this has to stop. Because you care about them and you love them. They care about you and they love you. But there's this great misunderstanding that just creates more turmoil. Because there's no way in our minds to resolve it. Especially if it's been going on for years. And especially if you feel you've been the scapegoat of the family. There are plenty of videos out there on channels that talk about walking away. Several of them will say, after a period of time, they will miss your presence. You will miss their presence too. Remember what I said? Pretty much it takes two to tango. That's what I'm talking about. It takes two to tango. And the person you're upset with or angry with when you walk away may miss your presence. Vice versa. You miss their presence as well. So then, Johann, how does the divine intervene? How does the divine intervene in these situations? I don't know where you're at in your walk as a good person or a spiritual person. We all have faults. Everybody has faults. Everybody has something to hide as well. I mentioned this the other day. Everyone has something to hide, not for nefarious reasons, but because of guilt and shame. We hide things. How the divine intervenes is based on what you do during this cooling off period. One, I already said it. Don't be thinking of ways to retaliate and get revenge. We all get into these things. Well, you did this. And then they say, well, you did that. And then you say, well, you did this. And then they say, well, you did that. That has to stop. And if you can't find a way to reconcile the differences, you need to walk away and have a cooling off period. Forgiveness, my first sponsor told me, means you won't retaliate and you'll forget about it. What does it mean you'll forget about it? How does that happen? You just turn your back and you'd have to have no conscience to not let it bother you a little bit. My experience is this. During these cooling off periods, as I already mentioned, you're not sitting there thinking about ways to retaliate or get revenge. You must continue, as I mentioned yesterday in the video, to keep creating balance in your life by doing things that create balance in other people's lives. I know how it is today. People do something good and right away they're on Facebook. Hey, look what I did, and I did this for these people, and stuff like this. My Facebook account's been deactivated since 2017. I don't do that crap. Have you ever heard someone say, it's a good thing to do something for someone else and don't tell anyone? So during this cooling off period, you continue to be helpful to society and not announce it on Facebook. It's called maintaining your spiritual condition. In a way, you could say, I'm proving to the divine that I'm not really a bad, ugly person. Let's put it that way. You could say it that way. If you have a kind heart and you have a calm, clear mind, at some point the divine will intervene. The divine will intervene in a way you never thought would happen. Remember in yesterday's video, I was talking about, we were talking about making amends. And I mentioned, well, something happens and then you don't talk to those people for a long time. And then maybe out of the blue, something happens and you clear the air. And the example I gave yesterday was you send them a Christmas card or a gift. Then you start talking again. You don't mention the bad experience. And I said that's not right or wrong. Maybe somebody you're having beef with that you stop talking to at some point needs you. And guess what? Families need each other. You might need them and reconcile that way. They might need you and reconcile that way. That's the divine intervening. In my case, there was a little discussion. I was honest, they were honest, and that was good enough. Let sleeping dogs lie. Here's something that's very important during that cooling off period. And I mentioned this in videos before. The people you hang around. Are the people you hang around during the people you hang around during the cooling off period good-hearted people? Or are they instigating you about what happened between your family and you? Maybe they know a little bit about it. Maybe they know a lot about it. And they keep saying, oh, you were right, what they did to you and blah, blah, blah. Justified anger. I kick those people to the curb. They're not spiritually mature. If you hang around people who are not, one, mature at all, or just a little bit, and they're like 40, 50, 60, and 70, if you hang around immature people that are that age, they're going to have an effect on you. And if they claim to be part of a spiritual group, let's say, and they're not practicing spiritual maintenance, before you know it, you will stop practicing spiritual maintenance yourself and become a cold-hearted person like them. So you need to walk away from them. You need to find your path, like I did, in quiet, but continue your spiritual maintenance. Continue to create balance in your life. Continue to create balance in other people's lives. There's a lot of ways to do that. I mentioned it yesterday. We're walking into Walmart. The Girl Scouts are there selling cookies. Throw some cash in. I don't get the cookies because if I'm in a vehicle, I'll eat them till I get home. Here's another thing I do. A lot of times you'll be riding along and kids will be holding signs, car wash, $5, car wash, young kids. Well, I pull up on my motorcycle, all full of tattoos and stuff, and they're like, oh. I say, here's a contribution. I don't want to wash. If your heart is in the right place. and you step away or walk away. And there's a cooling off period. If your heart is in the right place, the divine will intervene. Make it an amazing day. Make it. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of day you're going to have. And not just that. Make it an amazing life. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of life you're going to have. So why not have a good one? I'll catch you in the next video. Hopefully.